I completely agree with most and all of what Tahara said about inclusion, and how inclusion is really critical to successful DEI strategies. So I'm here from the state and I'm here to help you. You know, I'm from the government. I have 30 years combined experience in economic development. DEI was not a career path that I chose. It chose me. I was in an agency and in most rooms where I was the only woman, the only Black person, and probably the only Black person of a diasporic experience via the Caribbean. So I have always been in this space where I've had to be the ambassador for diversity in a way. So when I took up and was in this, accepted into this fellowship, I, of course, was in a cohort where I was one of only 2 women and the only woman of color, and the only Black woman specifically of color. So I, from the beginning, knew that there was a reality in my work. And so I sought out information about diversity, equity, and inclusion so that I could approach inclusion in a really thoughtful, deliberate way at the state level. So we know that most states have a diversity, equity, inclusion goal. Most of them have some kind of equitable policies that they're integrating across the agency, but they have no blueprint. Okay, folks are just stepping into these roles because they have to. So I was able to take what I learned, and thankfully, from Suffolk University, Dr. Joya, like I told her today, she changed my whole career path. Going through this program and working with her was like driving a car with unleaded fuel and then going with rocket fuel. Literally, that was the difference in my mindset and my focus. So some of the examples that I have and some of the experiences about innovation really have to do with my space, which is climate change and resilience. And as with most things that happen, whether they're environmental, social, or economic, vulnerable frontline communities usually are the first and the hardest hit. So the state has been looking at ways to incorporate trauma-informed planning into what they do. So I work for an agency that funds plans for long-term housing, workforce development, school systems across the state by county. And so one of the things that we were looking at and tasked with is how do we incorporate trauma-informed planning and equitable resilience in what we're doing? And I was asked to be a part of that process. So we can talk more and you'll hear more from me later, but one of the things that we did is we created an initiative specifically to incorporate diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, and accessibility into all of our programs across the spectrum. And what did that look like? It looked like a piloted staff-led interdisciplinary working group that I was able to create, design, and lead. And we identified the areas of weakness and where we thought we could incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion in our planning. And now we're looking at intergovernmental and interagency partnerships in 1 year. So that's what it looks like in my space, because policy takes time. Nothing is overnight. So in December of last year, if you remember, we had a cyclone blizzard in Buffalo where over 30 people lost their lives because of a snowstorm. One of the main issues was about emergency management and messaging and communicating and actually having a network of necessity so people could get out, get back, get their medicine, get help. We didn't have that. So that was a calling card for us. That was like a clarion call that there was more for us to do. So I'm working on those type of initiatives in the space that I am now as Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer for the Department of State.
Thank you so much.